Okay, find the two numbers that multiply to get A times C, but combine to get B. So our A you said was 6 and our C was negative 12. So what is A times C in this case? What's 6 times negative 12? Six times negative 12. Negative 72. We need to find two numbers that multiply to get negative 72, but combine to get B. What's B in this case? 1. So raise your hand when you can think of two numbers that multiply to get negative 72, but combine to get positive 1. And again, that comes quicker to some people than others. The better you know your times tables, the easier this is going to be. Cameron. Is 9 times 8 negative 72? Positive 9, negative 8, you just switched that to? Now, is positive 9 times negative 8 negative 72? Yes. When you add a positive 9 with a negative 8, does it give you positive 1? Yes. So he hit it. Okay? Now, if that doesn't come naturally to you, you can list all the factors of 72, 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, 8 and 9, and then you can kind of look for what has a combo of 1, and then mess around with your signs a little bit, but Cameron got that, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I have to get rid of this, because that was for guessing and checking. Once you find those two numbers, I said your job, the hard work is done. Because what we're going to do with those two numbers is we're actually going to split up our middle term. So we're used to combining like terms. We're actually going to uncombine this positive 1x. So we're going to keep the 6x squared. But rather than positive 1x, we're going to make it plus 9x minus 8x. We're going to use that positive 9 and that negative 8 to split up that middle term. And then we keep the negative 12. And when we split the middle term, how many terms do we have now? 4. And what's the method for factoring 4 terms? Grouping, which we just worked on the day before last. So we're going to group the first two. What GCF can I take out of that? Oh, John. 3x, very good. And what's left, John? 2x plus 3, good. And my second group, Evan, what do I take out of that? Negative 4. See how we took the negative? Good move. What's left, Evan?
2x
plus 3, good, because both of those get divided by. Now, you'll know whether or not you picked the right two numbers because you'll know whether or not grouping worked. Did it work? Yes, because we both have 2x plus 3. So now our final answer is to take the 2x plus 3 out in front. And what are we left with, Kirsten? 3x minus 4. Now, rather than guessing and checking 24 times to get to that, we have it. Okay? Any questions on that? Number 6. Aiden, I need two numbers that multiply to get what? $72, because he did A times C. Does everybody see that? This time it's positive 72 though, right? Because positive 8 times positive 9. And they need to add to get what, Connor? Negative 73. So raise your hand when you can come up with those. Multiply to get positive 72. Combine to get negative 73. McKenna. Negative 72 and negative 1. Right, the double negative being multiplied gives you 72. And then combined, negative 72 with negative 1 combines to be negative 73. Let me back up and kind of relate this to the rule that I taught you yesterday. If your last number is positive, you know it has to be the same sign twice, correct? And if the middle is a negative, they both have to be negative numbers. So now we're going to split up negative 73x into negative 72x minus 1x plus 9. And we group. Okay? Now on the first group, what am I going to take out, Nathan H? 8x. Mason, what am I left with? 8x. X minus 9, very good. Second group, this might be one of the few times we've seen this so far, but it's going to come up a lot. Isaiah, what are you going to take out of this? Negative 1, very good. There really doesn't seem to be a GCF. So anytime there's not a GCF in grouping, still take out a 1. And Isaiah took out a negative 1 because that second grouping started with a negative. Perfect. And when he divides out a negative 1 here, he's left with x. When he divides out a negative 1 here, he's left with minus 9. Did it work? So my final answer is what, Nate? Very good. Awesome. Now, I haven't said it yet today, but I've said it a couple times over the last few days. How should we start every factoring problem, no matter how many terms? Looking for the GCF. And I bring that up again because I see that one here. I see that we have a GCF. So, what is it? 2, so take that out. Comes x squared minus 11x plus 28. So here's the beauty of that, or the downside if you forget to do that. If I didn't do that, I would have been looking for two numbers that multiply to get 112. We don't know factors of 112 very readily, do we? That would have taken more work. We could list them, but it would take a while. Versus now, if I just focus on my kind of stripped down trinomial, now I need to find two numbers that multiply to be 28. 1 times 28 is 28. They need to multiply to get positive 28 and add to get negative 11. So take a second, think about what those would be. Multiply to get 28, add to get negative 11. Lydia. Negative 4, negative 7. Do we agree? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to hold on to that 2. I'm not going to forget about it. I definitely want that in my final answer, but I need to focus on my trinomial right now. So how do I rewrite this from here, Kaylee M? Not 2x. I'm gonna just hold off on my 2 till the end. Just focus here. Very good. I'm going to group, take out an x, left with x minus 4. I'm going to group, take out a what, Kaylee Smith? Negative 7, left with x minus 4. The x minus 4 is matched, so the x minus 4 times the x minus 7 is my final answer. With that 2, you can't lose that 2. So that's the one thing with taking out a GCF. You need to remember that you did that and make sure it precedes your parentheses in your final answer. Mason. This x? So right here I took the x minus 4 out in front and I was left with this x minus 7. So it's there. Nate. Meaning if you had x minus 7 first and then x minus 4, does not matter. Good question. Now, so that goes back to this point. Someone asked me this yesterday. The way Lydia gave me the factors, negative 4, negative 7, that's just the way I put them in there. But if someone had said -7, -4, and I did -7x minus 4x, then what Nate just said would happen, and they would have x minus 7 first and the x minus 4 second. They're the same two factors, right? 5 times 3 versus 3 times 5, same two factors, so we're good. Okay? Excellent. All right, flip to the back. Why does this one get a little bit more challenging? Seemingly, because it has two different variables. It should not affect you. And, well, maybe the first time it would, but once I show you how it's different, it's not that big of a deal. Still, I'm going to look for two numbers that multiply to get what, Micah? Nope. Multiply to get 6. A times C is 6 here. Add to get -7. Think about that for 30 seconds. Zach, what do you think? Perfect. -6, -1. They multiply to get 6, add to get -7. So here's the deal. When it was an x term, I split the middle one up into two different individual x terms. This is just an xy term. So I'm going to split it up into two individual xy terms. So I have 2x squared. And because it was an xy term, I'm going to make it -6xy minus 1xy. And then plus the 3y squareds. So whatever that middle term is, that's what you split it up into. Is that fair? Yes? So if it was a z term, I'd split it up into -6z minus 1z. Whatever the variable is, or the combo of variables is, you split that up. Now, maybe grouping is a little bit more challenging just because you have to think about an extra variable there. What, Aiden, do you think is the GCF of the first grouping? 2x, and then what's left in parentheses? Go in order. So the x, and then minus a 3y. Correct. Good. On the second grouping, Madeline, what's the GCF? -1y. You see how they have a y in common? So negative, you can put 1y or just y. And when you take out that y, -y, Madeline, what's the first term here? And when you take out -y here, what's the second term? 3y, because I divided out a -y. So first of all, the sign. The positive divided by the negative makes it a negative. The 3 is there, y squared divided by... Now, look at it. Did grouping work? Yes. So x minus 3y is your first term, and 2x minus y is your next. Okie doke? Okay. And the last one. Looking for two numbers that multiply to get what, Fred? 12. And add to get -13. They are -12 and -1. Take a minute on your own to rewrite this as a 4-term polynomial, splitting the middle term with those two numbers. Okay, your 4 terms should look like this. -12xy, -1xy now in the middle. Go ahead and group that on your own. Okay, you should have taken a 3x out of the first term, first grouping I should say. Take a -y out of the second grouping. and then the parentheses match, so you're in a good spot. And there's your answer. If your parentheses don't match, don't magically just change a sign so it all works out. Go back and figure out where your mistake was. First of all, make sure your two numbers do what they were supposed to do. Because if you pick the wrong two numbers, this wouldn't work out. But then, I see sometimes people's signs are different, and then they just, if one's a minus, they wish it was a plus, they just make it a plus. But what they're not catching on to is that they made a mistake somewhere else probably as well. So let that be like a red flag that you made a mistake. Okay? Your homework for tonight is 18 through 38 even. Okay? I'm not going to give you back your quizzes right now because A, we don't have time, and B, I'm not going to make corrections due Monday anyway. You'll have a homework assignment and spiral for Monday. So I'll give them back tomorrow. Oh, that's right. So I'll give them back tomorrow so that they'll be due Wednesday. Cool. All right, good stuff. Zach. Isaiah, did I get your test back?